let's start with the midterms, okay? And I'm going to do this John McLaughlin style. I don't know if you guys know what that would mean, but here's how John McLaughlin might do this. Hold on, I got to find my list here. Okay, here we go. President Trump and the Republican Party increasingly nervous about the midterms in November. Item, private polling from Republicans shows weaknesses in key congressional races and Senate races. Item, Republicans now say not just the House, but the Senate is in play for a possible Democratic blue wave sweep in November. Item, Eric Erickson, a sometimes guest host on this program, writes in his Substack this morning that Republicans are effectively doomed unless they make serious changes, including stop lying about the economy and ICE operations. Item, grim job numbers in January, the worst in many years. Item, President Trump's two best issues from the 2024 election, the economy and immigration, have turned on him with Democrats on offense in both places. Melissa DeRosa, I ask you, mandatory question. If zero is zero chance Democrats have control of the House and Senate both after the midterms, and 10 is mortal lock, what are the odds that Democrats take both the House and the Senate as we sit here today?
Both, I would say, is 6. The House alone, I would say, is 10.
Yeah. Larry?
Both 3.
Both 3. Okay, Melissa, what's your path to a Senate majority? They hold all their incumbents. They win Maine. What are the other 3 races they win?
Look, I think that everything is on the table. Everything. The check is out.
Alaska, Ohio, Iowa, Texas.
I think Texas is a bit of a stretch, but I think the rest of them are on the table. And it's not necessarily because Democrats have some great proactive message here. It's because every day I feel like Republicans are trying actively with all their might to lose. And when you look at, and I know special elections, people say, oh, it's a special election, but everything that happened in 2025, and then the elections over the weekend in Texas, the state Senate seat going from plus 17 Trump to plus 14 Democrat. I mean, all of the arrows are pointing to this could be, caution could be, it's only February, a huge sweep. But I think you've got to consider that everything's on the table.
I'll just say, when people say it's too early, if we only analyzed the midterms like the last week, we'd be out of business. So we'll talk about it. I left out North Carolina. Obviously, North Carolina is a prime Democratic Senate pickup opportunity too. Larry, did you read Eric Erickson's Substack this morning?
I did. Yeah, I usually read Eric. I like Eric's observations.
So is Eric too dramatic on this one, or is he right on the money?
I've known Eric a long time. I think going back over 15 years. We're friends. I respect him. I do think it's fair to say that he has not always been on the money in judging President Trump's political abilities, acumen, sweet spots, and his base, and the Trump base. He's miscalculated on Trump's base.
Let me phrase it this way. If the president called you and said, Larry, I'm hearing a lot of negative stuff. People are really worried about the House now, a blue wave. What cheer me up, Larry? What cheer me up?
Oh, Mr. President, you shouldn't have called me to cheer you up. Here's the fact of the matter. In any normal year, you're going to lose the House because there's always a swing 2 years after the dominant party wins the White House, and you already had a narrow majority. You only had 1 or 2 seats. The only thing that will save Republicans' majority in the House is if the Supreme Court can, in a timely way, come in and strike down the Voting Rights Act, and there can be redistricting in dominant red states so we can have parity with the dominant blue states in this country. If that doesn't happen, you're going to lose the House. So if you're calling me for good news...
go ahead,
a finer point on Larry's history lesson, just to double down on it. So since 1946, the House in the White House has lost seats in the House in the midterm in 18 of 20 midterm elections, on average to the tune of 25 seats. That number grows to 37 seats if the president has an approval rating under 50. So, I mean, we're up against history, but on top of that, the things I just said from 2025 and everything we've seen in special elections since, this is like sound the alarm time. So even if Eric Erickson is maybe overstating it at this point, or people think he might be too much of an alarmist, I think it's better to be an alarmist than to later say maybe we should have gotten our shit together sooner. Sorry, am I allowed to
So
say that?
the only thing that the only thing I would counter message there is, unlike past years, what we have seen in the last 20 years and even more so in the last 12 years is the redistricting process has become so exact and so computer model driven that I don't think we're ever going to see that kind of swing of 30, 40, 50 seats the way we've seen in the past. I really don't. I just think that they're designed in such a way to have a much more narrow sort of majority minority swing. But yes, history is working against them.
I will say, and again, Eric is very good on this point. Democrats, for much of the Biden administration, most pointedly about President Biden's cognitive decline, were in denial about saying the truth. They didn't want to say the truth because anything you say the truth, you'll be accused by the left of aiding and abetting Donald Trump's comeback. So they denied Joe Biden had cognitive decline. They denied the border was open. They denied that most Americans didn't think trans athletes should play in women's sports. What Eric's warning against is absolutely true. If you're a Republican and you go to a briefing with a private poll and you tell House Republicans, we're not just going to lose the majority, we're going to be wiped out. Or you go to a Senate briefing with a private poll and you say, we've got polling data that shows we could actually lose the majority. You should be heralded as a truth teller trying to say, so we need to make some changes. But instead, what happens, particularly on Twitter or on cable TV, is if you say, hey, this is a dire situation, you get attacked. And that deters some people from speaking the truth. And I think Eric's main message was, oh, maybe go on Twitter. For instance, when I do a monologue on Next Up that says just this, that the Republican Party, if this trend continues, it's not just going to be historical norm, you lose seats. It's going to be a wipeout. I get attacked. We always knew you were Democrat. Plus 25 in the House and losing the Senate would be a wipeout.
You really think plus 25 is a possibility right now in the House?
It depends on who the Democrats nominate in some of these races. And just you wait. James Blair is going to make mischief the way Democrats did. He'll be criticized for it, even though Democrats were lauded for cleverness. They're going to try to get a bunch of liberals nominated in some of these races, and that will make the difference. We'll have to see what happens with the Voting Rights Act. But I'm telling you, it could be 40. It could be 40. And I'm not predicting 40, and I'm not rooting for 40. I'm not a Democrat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just telling you, if you saw the private briefings that Republicans are getting now about where things stand, Larry, there are people in +7 Trump districts who are down in private polling now. Okay? They just are.
All right. I get that. I also know that it's been a tough news cycle for them, but I also think that when you say we got to change the messaging, I think we've seen that in the last 15 days, haven't we? Haven't we seen with Tom Homan getting into Minneapolis? And the polls continue to support, in my opinion, the overarching policy, if not the tactics being used right now with ICE and with immigration.
The polls do not support the tactics being used with ICE.
No, they don't support that.
I just specifically said the policy, not the tactics.
Well, but I thought you said and the tactics.
No, but on immigration, Larry, the most I continue to say, and I'm not the only one making this point. There are polls that ask, are the president's immigration policies making you safer or less safe? Less safe, making America less safe. That's as lethal. He's shut down the border, and people are still saying overall his immigration policies are making America less safe. That's lethal.
One other thing I agree. Tom Homan, they're trying to de-escalate. That's all right.
Right. That's the thing. The change of messaging has already begun, and let's wait to see the fruits of that.
Totally. Yeah. And honestly, I think that if there are no other high-profile issues, and if they get this thing under control, they can end up flipping the whole thing back on Democrats again if the Democrats insist on a shutdown, but people don't feel like it's as urgent a matter. So like that is a totally live wire, and we'll see where it goes. But it feels like every day there's no message discipline out of the White House in terms of what they should be talking about, which is the economy. And
right.
Number two, like every day they're trying to put out fires they themselves create.
Okay.
Like
Stop.
this situation.
Yeah. Okay.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and two-way tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.